Hi, Linda Anderson here from Linda Lou Creates, and I am so happy that you're here with me. This is actually the end of July, which means the end of my Christmas in July cards. So these are the three that I'm going to show you how I created and how I added the color here, the two separate colors on the holly with the berries and the leaves. So let's get started. So let's start here. This card is one in which I use markers in which to add the color onto the holly stamp. And I'm going to show you exactly what I did and how I did that. So I'm just changing the colors up a little bit on the cards I'm going to share with you versus the sample cards. So I don't use shaded spruce very much. I don't know why. So I thought I would pull it out. The other color I don't use very much is cherry cobbler. So I wanted to pull that out as well. Now mind you, my marker here actually is real red, and I'm sticking with that. But the main color for the red in as far as the cardstock and paper goes is cherry cobbler. Hey, speaking of this holly stamp, this is the set that I pulled it out of, Christmas Gleaming. This one is coming out in the new holiday catalog, the new mini catalog. So you're going to get a chance, if you haven't already purchased it, it was in last year's catalog for the holidays. So it was a favorite and they decided to bring it back. So I wanted to use it and share with you my projects. All right, so here we go. Let me just slide this off to the side. Some of the measurements and what have you, I just used a scrap piece of vanilla to not only stamp in the cherry cobbler ink my sentiment, which happens to come out of the Itty Bitty Christmas stamp set. I love this stamp set. It's perfect for Christmas greetings. I also did it then for my holly as well. Just cutting it out with the stitch shapes and then their corresponding either layering oval or circles. Okay, let me start now from the bottom. My card base is thick, very vanilla. I love my top folding card, so that means it's 11 by 4 1/4. The score line is at 5 1/2. Then I have a piece of cherry cobbler that I'm going to adhere my strips of designer series paper to, and this measures 5 1/8 by 3 5/8. Now my paper, my designer series paper, actually comes from, again, out of the holiday catalog. It's called 'Tis the Season designer series paper. And the piece of this red here measures 5 by 2 1/2, and this green is 5 by 1. So that will adhere down to here. Now I'm going to get into the stamping of the holly here in a second. Let me just go ahead and let's get this adhered down. Yeah, what do you think? That would be cute on there too. So this is what we're doing here. You know what else I don't use very often is very vanilla. So I have all kinds of things here in today's projects that I don't use very often, and don't ask why, because I don't have an answer as to why. So you know, you just sort of go, it's your go-to colors, and these aren't. So I am making sure that I do, though, this time. So all right, I got a little crooked on my red, so I'm going to just pull this up and redo this. There we go. Okay. There's always a way to fix things, right? Okay, now this is going to go down to my card base. And then don't worry, next is how I did the holly. So let's get this down. Okay, now inside my sentiment I already have stamped, and it's May Your Season Be Merry and Bright, and that one comes from, let me get it, the Joyful Holly set. Yes, holiday catalog. So I did stamp it. Yeah, I stamped it off to the side on purpose so I could fit in my holly. So here is the holly stamp. And it's as easy as just using the brush end of your marker. And I kind of tip it on the side so I can make sure I can get in the color, just outline it around. And, you know, I feel like I'm an artist here and I'm drawing this in. It's obviously already on there, but it just makes me feel like I am. So, all right, let me hurry up and get the other leaf done. It really does go quick. I'm not worried if I get a little bit on my holly berries. So, but you know, I try to avoid them with the green. And then I'll come back through, like I said, with, I am actually using the real red marker on that. I could certainly have used my cherry cobbler, but I already had the red marker out, so I'm like, I'm using it. Okay, so here's the red. Let's go ahead and get those berries. Okay, now there's another big trick when it comes to when you are coloring on your stamps. And I don't know if you've ever heard of huffing on them. Well, that's what you got to do next. So because some of this marker is kind of drying on there, you want to re-wet it or reactivate it, so to speak. So you just take a deep breath and breathe on it. All right, so I'm just going to come in here and stamp my holly. And there we go. I have my 2 colors of holly, and this is ready to go. All I have to do is re-ink it and go for the next one. All right, so let's go ahead and get this finished. We've got some dimensionals on the back here. I've adhered these 2 together, and now I'm just going to adhere it on and then add a little embellishment using, let me just bring it up a little bit more. I want to use these gold glitter enamel dots. All right, so let me pop a couple on. Okay, so I like to do things usually in 3s, so let's do that. And there we go. All right, card number 1, where all we did was just color up 1, cut it out, and next next one is to do the whole background. So here's the sample card. Again, like I said, I'm changing up the colors just ever so slightly, and this time we're going to create the whole background, which I already did. Time consuming a little bit more than I want to for the video, but let me go over the parts and pieces here. We have the top folding card base of 11 by 4 1/4. This is cherry cobbler. I have then for my insides a piece of Very Vanilla, and that is 4 by 5 1/4, and we're going to stamp the holly on there. Shaded spruce. It is just 1/8 of an inch bigger than what my Very Vanilla is. My Very Vanilla is 3 3/4 by 5, and this is just 1/4 of an inch bigger. That means it's just 1/8 of an inch bigger. That means it's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Wow. Okay, let me just go ahead and get that adhered down. Maybe I can then get my mouth to work, since I seem to be slipping a little bit on my words and my measurements. I will post this on my blog, on my Facebook business page as well. Both are Linda Lou Creates. LindaLouCreates.com is my blog. Facebook is Linda Lou Creates as well. So I'll have the measurements of each card on there as well. Okay, so there. Okay, that's down. Now, I could have put that on straight on, but as you see, I have this piece in here. I needed to cover up a smudge. So that's why I added this little piece here underneath. So you could go without it. It looks perfectly fine without it. And I'm just going to take an eyeball and see what it looks like with. And obviously that's mighty crooked, but it's just a little something different to kind of break up all of that holly. So I think I am going to actually put that down. I kind of like it. So let me do that. No rhyme or reason as to where, but this piece measures 1 and, let me think, 1 3/4 by 2 3/4. Actually, I said, let me think. I have the measurements here on a piece of paper. I just had to find them. So I'm sort of giving away my secrets. So here we go. I will show you here in a second. My sentiment strip. Do it according to your sentiment. All right. It's 4 1/4 wide. My sentiment fit best on a piece that was 1 inch wide. All right. And then the shaded spruce underneath, again, 4 1/4, and it's 1 1/8 inch wide. And that Merry Christmas I love, and it comes right in here in this poinsettia petals. All right, great set here. It comes as a bundle with some gorgeous dies. So let's go ahead real quick. We're going to put the insides in, but you guessed it, I got to add a little color to my leaves. Now you could rehuff on this again to sort of reactivate it and probably get another stamping out of it. Obviously it won't be as dark, so that's definitely an option that we can try on the next one, because the same thing, I did not go ahead and stamp ahead of time the holly because I just wanted to show you how quick, easy, and simple it is to add the color directly to your stamp, as opposed to me stamping this in black or brown or something and then coloring it in with, be it colored pencils, blends, watercolor it, any of the above. So like I said, I'm lazy. I like to find the simple route and take it. So okay, so here we go. One big huff. And, sorry, I gotta turn this sideways for me so I can see it, and I can then stamp it. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this, I'm gonna rehuff on it when we go to do the next one, and let's see what it looks like then. Okay, let's get this adhered on the inside, and then we'll be ready for card number 3. So, okay, there we go. Let me get that moved out of the way, and in it goes. Okay, card number 2 is almost complete. I want to just add my gold glitter dots, and I'm just going to put 2 of them on. I know that goes completely against what I just got done saying, that I usually like to do them in 3s, but there we go. There is card number 2. Now it's complete. This one I did in the real red. This one's the cherry cobbler. So, all right, now last one. This one, like I said, the colors I did change. This is Old Olive with the real red, but I wanted to keep with my cherry cobbler color scheme and shaded spruce. So what I did here was I just stamped kind of at an angle because I wanted this front panel, or these 2 little pieces here, to kind of angle out. See how it gets a little bit wider there. So this you can measure. I just kind of went with it as far as how I cut my angle. But let me just show you here. First up, the measurements are the same as the previous card. I have my Cherry Cobbler top folding card base of 11 by 4 1/4. I have my insides, again, 4 by 5 1/4, very vanilla. Very vanilla for the front, which is 5 by 3/4, and then the shaded spruce, just 1/8 of an inch bigger, so that means it's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Now, to create this on the front, here is another piece of very vanilla that measures 3 3/4 by 5. Now, if you prefer to measure or have something on your card base or cardstock, instead of just going right for the cutter, then go ahead, get a ruler and just start first finding your diagonal, okay? Because you know you're going to want to go on either side of your diagonal, all right? So from here, you can certainly now kind of just draw your lines. Okay, so here we go. So I'm seeing where my diagonal is, and now I have my lines. It might look a little confusing. This is going to be my cutting lines. All right, so I'm going to have from here up and from this line down. That will be my 2 pieces, and then my holly will show through here. Now, before I do that, I want to stamp the sentiment. Okay, now I'm using Cherry Cobbler ink here. I'm using the Deck the Halls with Boughs of Holly, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp it. Okay, now obviously I used pen on here, and I don't want that to show whenever I do my card. So what I'm going to do is, let me just move some things out of the way here. Well, I'm going to bring in my paper cutter, and when I put it in my, here's the channel for my paper cutter. As you can see, it needs cleaned out. So instead of putting the pen line there, I am going to go below it. Okay. That way, oops, I need to move out the out of the way the scoring blade. That way, when I cut it, I am below that line and have no pen mark here. Okay, let me move that one off to the side. And now this is the piece here that's going to be on the upper right side, I guess, if you want to say it. And I just want to make sure that my pen line, now that I'm cutting above it. All right, so let me go ahead, put that in, and here's that piece. All right, so here's what I'm cutting away. All right, so let me just get rid of that. Let me get my cutter out of the way, my paper trimmer, and here are the 2 pieces that are going to go on my card. All right, now from here, make sure you, again, if you forgot to stamp it first, your sentiment, do it now, because what you're going to do is run it through with an embossing folder. Now, I used the Tasteful Textures embossing folder here on the sample card. I don't know if you can see it. This is the subtle embossing folder here. Tasteful Texture. Okay, so I've also gone ahead and put dimensionals on the back. These I do recommend using quite a few. The reason being is, you know, it gets kind of narrow up here, and you really want to make sure that these don't dip down. All right, you don't want saggy saggy layers. So we'll put that together here in a second, because I'm anxious to see how this is going to work. I have my stamp that's been I've used the marker on it a couple times. So obviously you can still see some ink on there. So let's just go ahead and re-huff on it and see what we get. All right. It's an experiment. And not bad at all. Not bad at all. So that could save you some time there too. So instead of re-inking it, so to speak, every time. Okay, let's get this on the inside of the card. Okay, so got my glue. Okay. Oops, let me just get a little squeeze there. And on the inside it goes. Then I'm going to show you how we're going to put the front together. Okay. Now, I have already, like I said, you see here, stamped my holly on this piece of Very Vanilla. Don't be afraid, before you actually adhere these down, to set this just on top. All right, and make sure you don't have any, I'm going to call them bald spots or empty space. All right, and you can see where I was like, I had to stamp a couple little things in besides what's just kind of coming down at the diagonal. So I did have to fill in a little bit here, and you know, I don't care how it looks here because I knew it was going to get covered up, but that helped to fill in those spaces there. So make sure you double check that before you adhere your pieces down. So yes, I do love my dimensionals. I know I get made fun of all the time about that, and I'm okay with it because like I said, I like to make sure that they're on there good and solid and straight. All right, so here we go. Let me just move this one out of the way so that I can make sure that I get this on. So I kind of started in the corner and then make sure I've got it flush here and here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this one. All right, so take away all that dimensional paper. And I've been asked if I have stock in dimensionals, and I think I must for as much of it as I use. So one more, and let me just turn this upside down so I can get this on in this corner. Okay, and there we go. All right, looking good. And I like having these popped up. It's just fun then having this peeking through. So let me go ahead, get this attached to my piece of shaded spruce that is that 1/8 of an inch bigger at 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. Okay, and then it will get put down to the card base. And see, that's why I like the liquid glue. I can still kind of move it around a little bit. Sometimes that it'll move on you when you don't want it to, so you have to be kind of you know, aware of that fact too. So it'll slip and slide, and like I said, sometimes when you don't want it to. So here we go. All right, last but not least are my gold glitter dots. Yeah, let me see, let me think, what do I want? All right, here I will put on 2 up here, and then 1 down here. And there we go. There's the 3rd one. All right, let me see what you think. So let me bring the other ones back in. So here's the sample card, and there's the one we made. Okay, here's the full background of the hollies. And here's when we just used a piece of scrap and just stamped once. So here's an example of using your markers to color your stamps and add some fun color. Hey guys, thanks so much for coming and watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. That way you're not going to miss out on any new videos. I mentioned my blog, lindaloucreates.com. Head on over there, sign up for my newsletter as well. Give you all kinds of information of what's coming up and what have you, and some other samples too of things I create. So hey, thanks again for joining me, and I hope you get a chance to create today. Bye now.